Everybody, have a special guest with me today. He's actually it was on his show not too long ago, but I definitely always want to return the favor to a successful guy like this. That not only a cardiologist, but man, this guy's got coaching. He's got real estate. He is the real deal, Doctor Vic Raya. Hey, Vic, how are you doing, buddy?
Hey Jeff, thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. So, as we were talking before we hit the record button, a lot of people that are watching this or listening to this, they're successful professionals, physicians, dentists, pharmacists, engineers, attorneys, etc. And a lot of them come to me or get my material because they want other streams of income, whether they want to retire early, whether they want to get to the point where work is optional, or maybe they just want to have other streams of income. So let's think about that person in mind, that's who we're speaking to today, because that's you know that's who we want to provide value to. But before we go there, I think it's really important that people understand where you're coming from and where people are coming from. So can you tell us a little bit of background? I know you went from cardiology to all the stuff that you're doing now. So if people don't know you, who is Dr. Vic?
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. So let me ask the listeners a question. What is their motivation? What drives them? Why are they, listen to people like you, people like me? What's getting them outside the straight and narrow, right? Most people are dentists, they're pharmacists, they're lawyers, they're doctors, they're high income professionals. That should suffice in society's eyes. It's interesting. There's a zeitgeist, Jeff. I really think, and you've tapped into it. I've tapped into it, and we're trying to provide value to these folks because we were one of these folks. We are these folks, and it's status quo doesn't cut it any longer. Being a high income earner, and there's the outside facade. We have the doctor car, the doctor house. Our kids are in decent schools. We can take our 2 to 3 vacations a year, and probably we can retire comfortably. And that's the word that cages us: comfort. Um, I was in that same position. I was, my mom and dad really wanted me to become, something successful in our South Asian Indian culture. there's there's a propensity toward certain professions. It was either, you know, engineer, doctor, lawyer, or loser, right? So my choices are a little bit limited at that point. But all jokes aside, when I was going through the hustle of college, and I was in Atlanta and to Emory, and I was just really like, I really wanted to be a doctor. And once actually got into it, I'm like, hey, this is actually very interesting. I can be a people person. It's data analytical, decent income, 6-figure income. You're helping people. It's noble profession. Let's do it. And then something happened, Jeff. I had 6 people in my family all die of heart attacks, and it was crazy. And it was like in a series of years, and I was like, I really need to dig into this thing. I mean, and so not just being internal medicine doctor, but hey, let me specialize, let me focus. But the challenge was cardiology, one of the most competitive fields to get into, and I was like, man, I don't know if I can do it. But I just took it upon myself as a challenge. Like, first I had to get into medical school, which my parents were like 50-50 if this guy is going to make it or not. They're already filling out applications for me to go to the islands to get in down there. And then
It could be worse. You could have gone to dental school.
yeah, yeah, DO school, dental school, like going to the islands, or like they're like, man, they're like prepping me, say, hey, maybe not everyone's cut out to be a doctor. They're already telling me that. I'm like, no, man, by hook or by crook, I'm gonna do it. And similarly, cardiology was the same way. And I actually didn't match the first year, and so then I just really just put all my energy in. And when I finally got it, I was like, I thought the clouds would part. I thought, flowers would come from the heavens, and I thought I had made it. The interesting thing was, I remember the specific story, Jeff. I was in the cath lab, and we're doing cases where, like, we're doing stents, we're putting in little, circular metal, structures into people's hearts to open them up. The interesting thing was my mentor, he was so hardcore about this, and he thought the only way to make money is to work more hours, that he was like having all sorts of issues from the radiation. His fingernails actually were starting to get black from all the radiation he was doing. And I was like, and I was just thinking to myself, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, is this the guy I want to turn into? He doesn't know his family. He barely knows his kids. I mean, he lives in the hospital. And I was like, man. And then I noticed when I actually started practicing similar type of stories where it was just a hustle, it was just a grind. And people rewarded for how many hours they put in and not for ingenuity, for entrepreneurship, or any of that stuff. So then, and then also the type of medicine we were doing was like literally we're putting band-aids on things versus actually recovering. So uh, I had a dream to maybe practice in a different way. I also had a dream that I didn't want my income to be connected to my profession. I wanted to have income from multiple streams. I read the Kiyosaki books. I read the books on entrepreneurship. I read books on mindset. I was like, there seems to be a different way here. And then it wasn't popular among physicians, but I really was interested in doing this. So I made a goal that if I'm still practicing by the age of 40, then something went terribly wrong in my life. So I declared something. And
How old were you when you
I was
started?
33 when I started cardiology,
So
and I had
7 years.
7 years. And my uncle laughed at me. My wife thought she supported me, but she thought I was crazy.
Yeah.
But she was willing to support me. And um and I tried options trading. I had a medical staffing clinic for a while. I had all these things. In the end, I ended up in real estate, and real estate allowed me to take that jump, Jeff.
That that's unbelievable. So looking back, you think it was the guy with the black fingernails, the radiation on the fingernails, that's what really caused you to
It was
turning
I was
point?
seeing the writing on the wall. I would live a comfortable life, but the
Okay.
word comfort never sat well with me. I know most physicians love it. In fact, I sort of make fun of it for them, and I'm doing that on purpose because I want to jar them out of their stagnation, which I call the status quo. Whatever they're going to do, I want them to do it to the highest level. I don't want them to compromise. They should have what they want in life, whether that's taking Fridays off so they can go to the kids' practices,
Mm-hmm.
traveling the world, taking a month off and going to Europe should be a doable thing for a physician. And it shouldn't be like, oh my God, I got to find coverage. Oh, I'm going to lose income because my clinic is going to close down. I don't want that. I want people to have optionality. And I call that the freedom. And there's actually 5 freedoms, Jeff. And I go after them. In fact, I have a whole mastermind based on the 5 freedoms. And for me, and this is not something, this is not like this is not a t-shirt like tagline. This is literally what I believe in. I definitely want financial. I think most people do, Jeff, and you teach this as well. I think time is also important, right? That they want the money, so they have the time. They buy back their time, if you will. But more than that, is I want them to have physical vitality. I mean, you were in a special advanced retreat down in Miami recently, and you're working out with some of the most elite people in the world, Jeff. I mean, that's amazing. So I want that for people around me. And then I want people to have a bulletproof mindset, whether there's a recession, RVUs go down, reimbursements get cut, new regulations, divorce, there's something happens to their child. They should have the mental resilience to withstand that and move forward. And then finally, if possible, can you imagine working anywhere in the world? Can you imagine not having to go in for a physical clinic or a physical location, but your business can run anywhere, or it can run without you because it may be a physical location, but you've become an owner and not an operator. And I call that a self-managing company or a self-managing clinic. That is sort of the holy grail, and that's what I've been striving for. And now I'm helping others do the same.
That's awesome. And I know you'd mentioned physician a lot, but really anybody, you know,
Absolutely.
working if they're a professional, whether working self-employed or whatever. But and I think it's so hard. And I have an 18 and 16-year-old. My 18-year-old is freshman in college. He plays football at the local college here. So and then my 16-year-old is a junior. And I think it's so important for us as parents to teach them what you're talking about, because kids in general, your kids, and anytime they bring their friends over, like my son, he'll bring over the other quarterbacks, or he'll bring over some of the linemen or whatever. And it's like just exposing them to that, whether they want to do it or anything, entrepreneurship or not. But, I was looking back when I was their age, and I had some wealthy friends, we were just blue collar country folk here, but I had some friends, their dad has tons of real estate and this and that. I never knew what they did because their dads had never said anything about it. I'm like, man, you know, I'd missed out on so much, and maybe it was my fault. You know, maybe I should have asked them or whatever. But I think it's just real important that as we talked about earlier, to just focus on providing value. If you have something that you know you can help somebody else with, share it, right?
Yeah, I think this generation, I mean, hopefully they have exposure to so many things that we never had, you know, growing up.
Yeah.
Like no one really gave us like, hey, sat us down and say, hey, look, I can map out a way where you're going to be very successful in 4 years. I'm like, oh, wow. Like, and the other thing is there's options beyond just college. I mean, I think college and university still make a reasonable, I think it's the experience that's necessary for our children to go through, but it has no bearing on their income and their wealth and then even their profession. I mean, you can go be a professional, but still have your income independent of that.
Right. So I want to get into several topics, but one of the ones that you touched on, and I wrote everything down. I'm looking at my list. It's mindset. And you know, we hear this word get tossed around all the time. It's like, oh yeah, mindset. But tell somebody, you know, what your definition of mindset is, and in your opinion, because you coach on this, how important it is with all facets of life.
So, you know, if you take two people, same education, same background, same everything, and you present an opportunity, the person who has not developed their mindset has more of an expansive mindset, a growth mindset, inquisitive, curious mindset, a resilient mindset. They're gonna falter. Like they're gonna ask for more information. They're gonna ask for additional help, support. They're gonna question everything. They're gonna be skeptical. They'll be like, it's never gonna work. They're also gonna listen to uh, the people in in their friend circle. Friends are great people overall, and family's great, but sometimes if they haven't done what you're trying to do, they're gonna sabotage you. And you have to be careful. You have to sort of have a bulletproof, like you really have to have a cocoon around yourself, a positivity, and don't let anyone enter that. Like I essentially say, you have, you know, your mind is like a fertile garden, and don't let any weeds enter, right? And so that's the difference. So who's gonna I have two coaching clients, for example, and I've given them the both, and I've actually seen this happen in the last 12 weeks. I have two coaching clients. One is a hospitalist, you know, who's very smart, very successful in many categories, and another one is an ER doctor. And the ER doctor took the information I gave them, and after 12 weeks, they got a 22 unit under contract, a small multifamily. I've been working with the other guy for almost a year, and he still hasn't able to get a deal under contract. And they have the same income, they have everything the same except the mindset. And there's a quote that says, if you have the right attitude, you're going to hit the right altitude. And that really is it. And so people poo-poo mindset or explain mindset, but it's the DNA of success. It's the inner engineering that's going to help you architect the life you want.
So that reminds me, a few weeks ago, I just started learning Instagram. My kids taught me because I'm doing some stuff on there, and I think it's pretty cool. But I sent my son and one of the other quarterbacks, you'll be proud of me, a reel, Instagram reel.
Nice. I'm
Uh,
learning that myself, my friend.
Tom Brady. So you look at Tom Brady, and then like, what did he work till he was? I mean, he quarterbacked till he was like 44, 45. I mean, it was like crazy. This guy went that long, you know, was always a pocket passer, never wasn't the biggest, wasn't the strongest, wasn't the fastest, who never ran. And it was a reel, they were interviewing him, Patrick Bet David, and he was talking about when he was a freshman in college. And he like, I think he only saw the field like, I don't know, like just a couple of minutes or something. Wasn't much or whatever. And the guy was like, you know, asking him, does that discourage you? You know, that, you know, you went here, you did all this, you were unbelievable in high school, and you get to college and it's like you're sitting the bench, you know what? So, you know, most people would say, yeah, I'm just sitting the bench, or I'm going to quit, or this isn't for me. And he was like, I always thought about it like this. uh, whenever I knew whether I went in for one play or or anything, my attitude or what I thought about this was, you know what? When I go in, I'm going to be appreciative when I go in, but I'm going to play to the point where, you know what? They're never going to take me out.
I love that.
And
I love
that
that.
that was his mindset. I'm like, well, holy cow. I mean, that just goes to show you. I didn't, Michael Jordan growing up was like my basketball hero. And you just assume that people like that are good. And then you watch The Last Dance and saw what that dude went through.
Yeah.
And just that dude was like, everybody hated him, but they loved him, but all of his teammates hated him just because he was just like so driven. And it's just right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. So I think this is a good chance to discuss for all your listeners out there, guys. You guys all have a superpower, and I want you to start leaning into that, whatever that is, because your superpower is essentially what you are willing to do no matter what. And what happens is, it for others is work, but for you it's play. You're willing to put 10 hours, 12 hours, 14 hours into that thing, whatever that is, and that's your unfair advantage. And if you leverage that, whether it's in your profession or it's outside your profession, that's what you want to see. And and another thing that me and Jeff have figured out is we found businesses or side hustles or things that we're passionate about, or other adventures that are what we call ELF businesses versus half businesses. ELF is easy, lucrative, and fun. So when you're in your zone of genius, those and you're doing what you're supposed to do, or what you're really good at, or what the world needs, and what you can get paid for, it's almost effortless. It's seamless. It works. When you're doing something against the grain, there's friction, there's resistance. And those are half businesses that are hard, annoying, lame, and frustrating. So you want to avoid those businesses, and you want to double down into the ELF businesses. And every person's superpower also has a dark side. So what is the dark side to your superpower? And sometimes I love what I do so much that I notice, hey, I'm not spending enough time with my kids or my wife, or hey, my whatever, I'm so good at speaking on stages, I need to go and travel a lot, but now am I, what's the con on that? Or I love working out, but do I need to work out 2 times a week? I mean, 2 times a day instead of just 1 time a day? Was 1 time a day enough so I can actually do deep work? Because what happens is, a lot of us, we have this perverse form of procrastination, Jeff, in the mornings, where we have this really convoluted morning routine. And by the time everything is done, and this is usually for the higher performers out there, they use the morning routine as a reason not to get the real work done. And so this is another concept that I'm starting to play around, which is the dark side to people's superpowers.
Yeah, that's good stuff. You had talked about, and I think this is really important when we talk about mindset, talked about time. And me being, when you're getting right out of school or training or whatever, you're like, oh, you go talk to a financial advisor, or you talk to people, you never think about dying, right? And you're like, 21, 25 years old, 30, like, oh, I got the rest of my life to live. And we'll just like completely sacrifice our time because we just want to make money. We want to get out of debt, or get the lifestyle or whatever. But now as you get older, you just realize how important time is, and especially with our kids. You only just have this finite amount of time to spend with your kids, usually between the ages of, they start remembering, like if you go on trips around 5 to 13, and when they're 13, they don't really want to hang around you as much, they're teenagers. But so you had mentioned that was one of the main issues. So what do you teach, or what is your view on time?
Money's overrated. You can print money, you can't print time. So a lot of people also realize that there's uh, to earn money, you have enough of a time horizon, but there's certain time buckets in your life that you need to take advantage of. And so, for example, from age of like 10 to age of 18 is your only time with your children at home, right? Probably 95% of your time with your kids, where they're under your roof, that's it. Those 8 to 10 years where they're actually somewhat more mobile and active, and they can be with you. After that, like, there's a certain time period where you and your spouse can actually do more adventurous things. And then after that, that time period is gone. There's a time period where your parents are alive and well, and you can actually hang out with them. And then there's a period of time where they're going to be more restricted in mobility, or they may pass away. So there's that time, right? So it's like, you got to think of time as like, how many Christmases do I have left? How many Thanksgivings? and it just puts a premium on time. And so instead of being like the grass, there's a parable I learned from a book called Die with Zero by Bill Perkins, which is really good, right? It's like, the ant and the grasshopper. Ant takes all his time, focuses on just preparing for the winter, and the grasshopper just has fun. The goal is to actually be more like the grasshopper and less like the ant, because we're always about like 401k, IRA, this, that, and we essentially slave away, and we have extra income at the end of our life. And that extra income represents time, energy. It represents experiences that we could have had that, there. And then I know the whole argument of, oh, I want to leave some money for the kids, this and that, but I really think we overdo that concept of it. And in the end, I was never given any. I mean, I'm not planning on getting anything from my parents. I'm planning to just be self-sufficient. And so, I think if we have some of that in mind, we'll recapture the value of our time.
So I want to ask you a question that I was asked. I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Yes.
Friend of mine, Brad Lee. He has a podcast, Dropping Bombs. The real Brad Lee, great guy. So he said, Jeff, why do you think? So if you go up to somebody and go, hey, Vic, I'm going to give you $100 million today. I mean, or you tell somebody you're going to give them $100 million today.
Yeah,
they're going to be excited, right?
Sure.
You're going to be super excited. They said, okay, well, here's the catch. The catch is I'll give you the check for $100 million, but you're not allowed to wake up tomorrow. This is it. So I said, okay. I said, well, so knowing automatically, everybody's like, well, I don't want that. I want to be able to wake up tomorrow. So he said, because of that, knowing that, why do you think people don't wake up every morning thinking about how precious each day is? If they really know it deep down, why do you think? And that was a question he asked me. That was a really good question.
It's also, yeah, I think you can, if it's not, there's no threat to really, because they don't really believe it, right? They know that they're going to have a next day and the next day and the next day.
Right.
But people who found out some terminal illness, something crazy, they actually are living that reality. And, if they're smart, a lot of them just empty the bank accounts, quit their job, and just go travel the world. They do all the experiences they've been putting off because they really don't have a tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So I think and it's hard to live like that consistently, but if you can live like that somewhat and play those thought exercises and mindset exercises, and maybe not dying the next day, but there's certain time elements that are going on. Like as I mentioned, the kids, your health to be able to do things like you can go jet skiing for only a certain number of years, and after that you can't, right? So there's certain things you want to squeeze out of life before life squeezes out of you.
So talking, kind of segue into health, one of the things we talked about at Wes Watson's mastermind, and he was always talking about everybody has problems in three main areas. Any problem you have is going to be in three main areas: health, wealth, and relationships. Health, wealth, and relationship.
Top three coaching buckets that everyone wants to get help on.
So what is your take on, because a lot of times we sacrifice our health to try to get ahead and this and that, but it's like, what's the point of wealth without health? So what is your take on that, or what do you coach on that?
When someone comes into something with us, we actually do a really thorough assessment where we actually figure out where their freedom levels are. Mm-hmm. It's a rude awakening for a lot of people. Excuse me. It's a rude awakening for a lot of people because they're like, I never really. One, they compare themselves to people that are already better than them. So then they're like, oh, okay, I'm okay. I'm not that bad, or I'm fine. But when you compare yourself to the ideal, you're like, oh my God, there's a gap here, And I really believe in, there's a concept called gap in the gain where you're trying to appreciate where you come from, and there's a good gratitude and sort of a mindset thing, which is great. But frustration drives perspiration and inspiration and motivation. And sometimes we're more motivated by desperation than, inspiration. So I really like, if you're not where you are, if your life conditions are really not your blueprint, you need to be exposed to that. So what happens is then it drives you to move forward. So, sorry, what was the stem of your question again?
But basically, I just wanted your thoughts on how important health is, and
Oh
whenever
yeah.
you're coaching in that area.
So I really, once I get that global assessment, really then I'm like, then we create a game plan for all of it. I really don't believe in choosing goals. I would really want a holistic, integrative thing. Like that's why I ended up, after I left cardiology, I ended up creating a clinic where I optimize the human. I'm not here to just reverse your diabetes or your hypertension or your cholesterol or
Mhm.
inflammation in your body. I'm like, all right, that's great. We get you to stability, and from stability, we get you to optimization. Optimization is multiple categories. I don't want you to be the richest man in the graveyard. I don't want you to be a wealthy divorcee. I don't want you to be like a health nut that's poor. I want you to get it all. And so let's work on it. So there's a relationship optimization, there's time, there's wealth. And the thing is, you can't go after wealth. I'm sorry, a lot of people go after their health and all these other things, but a lot of the pain points for most people you have to address first, Jeff. Even though I would love to think vitality is the number one thing, in fact, for most people, it's not. They want more free time, they want more money. I've done these mind maps, which are these deep assessments with 250 to 350 of the smartest people on the planet, and they consistently tell me the same story. Oh, I want more free time. I want more money. So once we handle those, even though they come to me for that, I give them everything else.
So we've talked a lot about coaching and mindset and that, but tell us about your sign behind you, the Viking Capital.
Oh
How do you
yeah.
help people with that?
So one of the vehicles it helped me to create this more free time for myself and to create the clinic where I was helping reverse disease called the Vitology Institute. I created it, and during the pandemic, a lot of physicians and other high income professionals started coming to me for help and assistance because they were seeing me doing different things beyond the traditional. And so I started coaching and mentoring. I sort of fell into it, if you will. And now our company, Limitless MD, helps physicians and other high income professionals really achieve those five freedoms in multiple aspects of life. And the Viking Capital is really the engine that has allowed me to create a lot of that freedom, wealth, and other companies. And it is a multifamily syndication company that we've created with my partner Ravi Gupta, and we buy value add and so more of a core plus assets, which are nicer assets all over the country. We've been doing it since 2015, so we're almost at our ninth year.
Mm-hmm.
We have about $750 million worth of real estate we've acquired, and we have almost 5,000. I think we have over 5,000 doors at this point.
So right now we're, kind of hearing about the interest rates and all this stuff going on. What are you seeing in the multifamily world that I know
Yeah,
you got in before, sort of,
yeah.
after they hiked up the interest rates so much. So what are your thoughts about that now?
It's a real thing. It is a legitimate reason to be cautious.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, out of our 8 years or 9 years of existence, this kind of floating rate interest rate situation was only there for about 18 months for us, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously that was the only way to get deals done. And so we have a few deals that we're protecting and doing well on, but it is a challenge asset management wise just to make sure that they're optimizing. But the rest of them we have fixed debt on, and they're all low interest fixed debt, and those are all these deals are crushing it. That being said, there's a buying cycle and a selling cycle. Right now we're in a buying cycle, so it does not make sense to sell unless you have to. So I would say hold on to your real estate assets if you can, single family, short term rental, long term rental, larger assets, and wait. The theme is essentially, thrive in 2025. So get to 2025. By
Mm-hmm.
then, we shall have at least a couple of rate cuts factored in. Elections will have been over. There should be some more stability, and whatever brief soft landing or small micro recession we're going to go through, we'll have gone through it, and there should be another boom cycle for another 4 to 5 years.
So I'm a busy high income earner out there, and everybody's throwing about, all right, yeah, I need to invest in real estate. I need to invest in real estate. How does that person decide, should they be an active investor or a passive investor?
One is time, second is interest, three is skill set, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, if they can figure out, hey, I have a lot of free time, great. I want to learn this. Hey, I have the skill set, or I want to acquire the skill set, great. And then interest. Even if you don't have the time or the skill set, if you make the time and you can learn the skill set, then as long as you're interested, start with passive. And then if the bug bites you, come over to the active side. So if you want to do passive, my company, Viking Capital, our website is vikingmultifamily.com. We'd be happy to share with you our latest deals. We have a deal right now that's doing really well. It's in Atlanta. It's, I think, a third floor already, and it will probably close by the end of the year. So take advantage of the bonus depreciation, the tax benefits, and all that. Mm-hmm. If you want to do active, I help a lot of high income professionals learn how to do the active thing, especially small multifamily, which I think is the secret asset class that no one talks about. And it's the quickest way to wealth in less than 1 year. Short-term rentals are great. A lot of people are chasing the tax tail. All the other asset classes, duplexes, quads is all good. Fix and flips, wholesale. There's a lot of different strategies, but if you're a high income earner, a couple of 2 or 3 people together, you can take down a 20 unit and literally it'll transform your life.
Yeah,
you can back off on a day of work. You can probably start building your nest egg. And I want people to go from high income, low net worth, which is what I see mostly, to high income, high net worth.
I was telling you before the call, before we started recording, I've had lunch today with 2 local dentists, and one of them was just like has only been out for like a year, and they were kind of asking me like, what are your thoughts on this and that? And I know you talk about real estate, and I said, well, in school in general, college, medical school, dental school, whatever, they don't teach you that you can have a trailer park paying your mortgage. He's like, you have that? I was like, yeah. He's like, well, how do you do that? I was like, you got to learn, but it's possible. And just think about that, how much stress that takes off of you when you got other things besides you trading time for money. It's paying your bills. And it's just again, you're all about mindsets, it's a different way to think about money.
If strategic decisions over a 3 to 5 year period across your whole career can literally create a different escape velocity that allow you to shortcut your retirement horizon, create mental peace of mind, allow you to live a life different than most of your colleagues, and practice for the fun of it or work for the fun of it.
Yeah. And I love when people come in and they're just busting their butt and they just don't have the money to do the work. But I mean, I'm like, okay, let's do it. We can, I mean, think about how you could, no matter what your profession is, you just give away stuff.
Yeah. I'm planning to do medical missions, next year. We want to go to the different parts of the world and just practice for the fun of it. Cause, I miss being an active cardiologist. And so I want to get back into it a little bit.
Awesome. So if people want to hear, and we'll put all the links, everything below this, how do they find out more about you?
VikramRaya.com, VikramRaya.com is my website. You can have all my YouTube, my podcast, everything is all there. And then my multifamily company is vikingmultifamily.com.
Awesome. So we'll make sure we put that in the show notes, and we'll make sure we put that all the links below this video. Dr. Vic, it's always a pleasure to talk with you, and hopefully we can do this again soon, because I'm sure I'll get a bunch of follow-up questions.
Awesome, Dr. Jeff. Thanks, man.